All right, everybody, welcome back to Full Circle with Joyce. This is our second hour. If you're just joining us, karibuni sana. We started at 8 a.m. and of course we had all sorts of good stuff in the first hour, and now we jump into our lifestyle hour, today being Relationship Tuesday. And as I did mention, today we want to talk about young godly marriages. It almost seems like an oxymoron finding those two words together, young godly, or even those three, young, godly, and married. It's seeming like quite a rarity nowadays, but we're going to be talking to one such couple, and they're going to be sharing their experience with us. And later on in the show, we'll be talking about the do's and don'ts of relationships, carrying on that conversation from last week. Lots of comments and feedback on that, so do keep them coming to 22999, and also on our social media platforms at Switch TV Kenya on Facebook and Twitter, and at Switch TV KE on Instagram. With that said, let's get started with our inspirational word for the day. It says, aim to make a difference in someone's life every single day, including your own. All right, aim to make a difference in someone's life every single day, including your own. And that's by Doi Zantamata. Doi Zantamata. All right, indeed, certainly. This goes back to, I guess, goals and purposes in life. Are you just living for your own selfish ambition, or have you purposed, have you desired to actually be impactful to the people around you, to make a difference in their lives as well? But I also like how it touches in your own life as well. What are the things that you're doing that are improving you to become a better person? Are you actually working on yourself, trying to deal with your weaknesses, to work on, the low points in your life? What are you actually doing about that? Hopefully every single day you're actually trying to make a difference, not only in other people's lives, but also in your own. All right, with that said, let me introduce my guests this hour. With me, I have Curtis and Soila Wamalwa, young, godly, married couple.
Yes.
Wow. Karibuni sana to the show.
Thank you.
You're both content creators.
Yes.
And of course, we had Curtis here with us last week. He was talking about the do's and the don'ts of relationships. I don't know if you got to watch. Hopefully you corrected him if he said anything weird.
I did. But he didn't say anything off.
He didn't say anything
Yeah,
off.
he was correct.
Good.
Point on.
Good stuff. All right, so Curtis and Soila are a young YouTube couple who are married. Okay, they're both content creators, and they talk about relationships and lifestyle on their online platform. Today, they're in studio with us, and they'll be sharing a bit about their journey, particularly into having a godly marriage. As I did mention, though, those three words, it's almost so rare to find them nowadays. It's like if you find them, you're like, oh, you need a trophy.
No, it's true.
Do you guys find that perception as well?
Yes, especially from both sides of the divide. Both the old people think it's not really possible, and the young people think you're pretending.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you guys are nowadays. You don't even, you guys went proper,
Yeah.
It's an interesting journey, and having to work every day proving that actually you're a godly marriage, a godly married couple. I think now that's where now the work your lifestyle has to show that you're actually godly. That's where now you testify and they know actually what you say is true.
Yeah. And can I ask, so when we say young, like how young are you guys? Because some people will be like, nah. Like about how, you don't have to give us your exact ages, but are you below 30? Are you below 25? I don't know.
Well, I'm old enough to be a parent.
Okay.
But I'm
But
not,
you can
I'm
be
not
a
old
parent.
enough
Do
to
you
be
know
a
you can
grandparent.
At 19.
No, for me, I'm 30.
Yeah. For me, I'm 28.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you're a young couple.
Yeah.
And how long have you been married?
Actually, we just got to our third year last month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 3 years of
3
wonderful marriage.
Oh, good for you. Good for you, Curtis. She's saying that with a smile.
Yes.
Because the cameras are on. No, I'm not actually saying the truth.
All right, so let's learn a bit about yourselves and about your story. Where did you guys meet? How did you come together? What was that about?
Would you prefer her version or my version?
Oh gosh, yeah, there's always a version. So kuna ile ya public, even as we have our versions, then there's the one that you've synthesized and you say, ile
now the
summary.
common ground.
There's her version, and then there's the truth.
But the truth is that we both met in Daystar.
Okay.
I was in my first year, my first semester. He was in his last semester. So we just shared a semester in university.
Okay.
And I think he had just walked out of a certain relationship, as well as for me. And then when we met at a concert, I remember when we now started talking was at a concert when international hip hop artists came over to Kenya, and then we went to the concert as university students. I remember I went with my friend, she left me, and then Curtis saw me because he had noticed me earlier on in school, but he hadn't talked to me. And I also noticed him before he noticed me. So in different occasions, so I had noticed him, he did notice me. And then on that particular day of the concert, when he came to me to say, oh, I see you're lonely, do you want to come and sit with us? I was like, oh yeah. So it was easy for me to say yes because I had noticed him earlier.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how we started off the conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how was your dating experience then? But even actually before we get there, for you now you've seen this beautiful lady. I don't know if your hair was on. She's like, oh, naturalista. Oh, curls.
No.
Anyway, I don't know what
Braids,
you saw, but
full
I mean,
on.
of course she's a beautiful woman.
Thank you.
But I mean, even just the process of approaching her, because again, that's something a lot of young men, particularly also trying to have godly relationships, can really struggle in. Like, so before even the marriage, there's the question of how do you even date
How do you
in
start?
a godly way? How do you start?
Well, for me, I was coming from a past relationship that didn't end so well. So there was those issues that I was dealing with. And it's about the same time that I met with her. So I was quite jittery because I felt like, I'm not sure that I'm really ready to get into another one. Because I was trying to avoid the whole rebound situation. So I took it really slow. But I think what helped is that was the time when I was really beginning to take my relationship with God quite seriously. So it informed a lot of decisions that I was making at that time. Yeah.
And for you, like, you know, what was your sort of frame of mind? You know, there's a lot of pressure to be dating, to be in a relationship, to have that dude who you're like, gawe 2K annually, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of
for me, coming from a religious background, so for me, values were at the top of my mind. I mean, you have to be a godly man. You have to lead me spiritually. Imagine I was thinking of those things in first year of college. And I remember even walking out of the relationship that I was in, it's because we didn't understand each other when it comes spiritually. On value basis, we didn't understand each other. So I decided, where you stay by yourself, me, I'm going to walk away on this one. So by the time I was meeting him and then him just telling me that he's starting to understand the godly way of doing things, I think that's where now we click. I'm like, oh, this is a man that I can walk with. This is a guy that I can have a relationship with because, I mean, his heart was in the right place.
Yeah. And how was the dating process? There's a lot of pressures that come through as well, even from our peers.
Yes.
Right? A lot of like noses in your business, a lot of like comparisons of how comes you're not doing things this other way, temptations too. Like there's all sorts of different things that can come through. But you know, when you're trying to walk towards a godly marriage, it's so important to start right and to do it right throughout the process. Are there any sort of nuggets you could share with us concerning that?
For me, I was privileged to have friends who are like-minded. So they would always talk to me when they see I'm going off in one way or another. I was surrounded by a community of people who are, I would call them quite sober when it comes to relationships. So the accountability factor was really in there. So for me, that really helped because there are people who they are not afraid to call me out whenever they see me doing something that is not really right.
For me, I started out with, I mean, we are all first years. We're all trying to figure out college life. We're also trying to figure out this relationship thing. And then I think I was also privileged by meeting him and then I became friends with his friends. So it was also easy for us to work really an open kind of relationship where there's the accountability aspect of us saying, oh, this is what we are going through, or how do we go about this particular issue. So I think just having the accountability friends that were there in our lives was a bit easy for us to date, and also the privilege of being in a spiritual community where everybody, I don't say it was in your business, but they were there for you. So it's not like we're just in our own island ourselves doing our own relationship. We had people around us who had worked before us and they were willing to work with us.
You've raised this thing, accountability. And very important, like in every aspect of life, really. Even just yesterday, as far as career was concerned, we were talking about accountability. But when it comes to a relationship, for accountability to work, I guess you have to allow yourself to be that vulnerable. You have to allow that person to really know, like, the truth, right? Now that other version of you. Yes. They have to be able to come in. And, you know, how is that? Because again, as we've said, you know, relationships have a lot of different struggles and challenges. Was that ever like an issue? Were there things that you would feel really nervous talking to your accountability partners about? How much space, I guess, did you give them to step into your relationship?
Ladies first.
Because he's thinking of the answer. I think, first of all, whom you're accountable to. You have to have a level of trust with each other. I know I can be vulnerable to you and you're going to cover me. It's about covering. I won't tell you about my issue, then I go spread it to other people. So I think that was the first point of just establishing our accountability partners. And I think for us, it was our spiritual leader when we started, because I mean, this is a pastor. You've dealt with so many young people who go through so many issues. There's nothing new under the sun. So if I come and tell you things, I mean, you're more open to helping me. It's not about you condemning me. And I think that's the first thing that we experienced when we went to our pastor. Because even I remember when he started dating, he had to tell us, what has God said? Why are you guys dating? What's the purpose for your dating? And that question threw me off. And I'm like, oh, wow, you're now coming into my business. But surely it was an important question to answer. So after answering that question and also having challenges, upbringing challenges, I mean, he grew up in a different way, I grew up in a different way. I mean, values, he's still growing up spiritually, I'm also growing up spiritually. The things we don't understand, is kissing a problem, you know, is it allowed? Just having this question answered by your pastor was quite interesting for us and easy. I mean, after you know, you don't just go deep in the first day you meet. You start with on the shows, and then you can go deep and I understand how this person responds to questions, and from there now you are more open and more vulnerable with the issues that you experience. It's a progressive relationship.
Absolutely. You constantly keep growing. Well, let's talk about now getting married. Curtis, one day ukaamka ukasema leo ni ile siku I'm going to ask her to be my wife. I'm assuming that's what happened. Ama, you went on your knees, my dear.
Oh no.
Like, no. But you know, this day came. This was after how long of dating for you guys?
We had dated for around 4 years.
4 years. Okay. So you guys have been together a while.
Yes.
So when you were, you know, as a young man, because again, we've seen commitment is becoming a huge issue for a lot of guys. A lot of guys don't want to commit. So we're seeing, sijui can we stay, sijui weka uko, but I'll still be your sponsor. All sorts of weird situations happening. Like, I'm just being frank. And so, you know, what was it for you that sort of clicked in your head that this is it, like, and you want to do this, and you're willing to give this a chance? Because even for us, when we were getting married, we were told, you know, you think you know a person. No. Marriage, that's when you really discover a person. And so, you know, it's a point you pause and you reflect. So for you, getting ready to ask this woman to marry you, what was that process? And I really want you to encourage young men today who are so scared of commitment. Very briefly, as we get ready to take a break.
You have to be ready to answer the why question. She mentioned purpose. I think a lot of people, we get married because, you know, it's a rite of passage. People get married, so let's get married. But there has to come to a place where you really have to answer, why exactly are you getting married? Why exactly are you getting married to this person and not any other person? And that's not something that you'll necessarily just make a prayer and the next day you wake up and the answer is there. It's a journey you take. As you relate to this person, God keeps opening your eyes to see the reasons why this person is somebody you like to do life with. So for me, the answering the purpose question was really important. The journey helped, and I was really, I had the desire to do it right. You know, because just being brought up in the whole church setting and all that, what she's saying. And I really wanted to do this in a way that I believed pleased God. So for me, that was at the core of my heart. I wanted to do it right. And that informed every other decision that I made.
So wanaume, they shouldn't be scared of commitment.
They shouldn't be scared. I don't know why people are scared of commitment.
You tell us more when you come back from this break.
You guys.
I don't, if you're scared, don't ever make a decision when there's fear,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that fear is an indicator that something is off.
It's off.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's a good point right there. All right, we're going to continue this discussion with Soila and Curtis when we come back. Of course, your comments, I can see them starting to come in, questions for them. And when we come back now, we want to dive into like marriage, like the good stuff. We want to hear about how they've actually handled this. You know, does Curtis just tupa his socks all over the place? And, you know, just dealing with like, you know, understanding this completely new personality that you're dealing with and some of the different challenges and how to overcome them. I love how Soila is laughing about this. But this and much more when we come back from this break. 22999 is the SMS sign. I'll see you soon. Na flat na ka black. Welcome guys to Full Circle with Joyce Akina Jibamba hapa na Curtis na Soila. And this amazing crew. Hey Maze, Full Circle with Joyce, Tuco strong. But thank you both again for being here. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. Lots of people being encouraged by it. Soila and Curtis look amazing together. Loving the show. Someone else here says, good morning Joyce, I'm Caroline, tuned in from Juja. That couple's looked good together despite them being young. Absolutely, they certainly do. You can also comment on our Facebook page at Switch TV Kenya on Facebook and Twitter, and at Switch TV KE on Instagram. Selasi Mpenda Rege says, interesting and blessed couple. And then there's a guy here, his Facebook name is Nashuku Niwewe. Maze, I love Facebook names. Anyway, Nashuku Niwewe pia anashuku marriage, because he's asking why marriage. Which is a valid question, you know, because we were talking earlier about, it seems like a lot of people can find whatever they're looking for outside of formalizing that covenant and formalizing that commitment to one another. So Soila, at least Curtis has already shared his side of the story with us. But for you even, you know, beyond like putting aside the pressure for people to get married and to say that they have a spouse and whatnot, you know, why choose marriage at the end of the day, and why choose to commit and be faithful to that particular union? Because again, we're seeing so many people stepping outside of their marriages. You're a young girl, either sponsors or whatever it is that they're looking for out there. You know, why marriage for you?
Wow, that's one of the most broad question, yet difficult question to answer. I mean, different people have different answers. But for me, I normally go back to the institutor. I don't know if that's a word, of the marriage itself. God is the institutor of marriage. He's the one who created it. So he has a reason for marriage. And there was this particular thing I was watching, and this guy just illustrated marriage when God said that marriage should replicate himself here on earth. And he said, let's create man in our own image. Yeah. And then, I mean, it's 3 in 1. And then marriage, you have a man, a woman, and the Holy Spirit of God himself. It's still a replica of who God is. I think why marriage is definitely there's so many reasons of why people get married. One is definitely to bring forward righteous offsprings in the world. I mean, it's just for God replicating himself in the world in a more righteous way. The image of God to be more available to people here on earth. When people walk out of the institution of marriage, or when people decide to have the come we stay aspect of things and not do it the godly way, I want to say that if you do it with God as your witness, then there's a blessing. God blesses that institution. If you do it out of God, we talk with Curtis and normally say people thrive on common grace, but there are levels of intimacy, there are levels of blessings that people who are married in Christ walk in, that people who are not married in Christ do not walk in. There are levels of purpose you access as a married couple.
Well done.
There are levels of blessings and purpose you accomplish as a married couple in God that people who are not married in Christ do not accomplish. So come we stay is not a marriage. It's something, I know the government recognizes it as a marriage in 6 months, but what does God say? He's the creator of marriage. What does he say about marriage? I mean, we always have to go back to God, the initiator of this institution. It's his. You have to do it his way. Follow his manual. You don't buy a fridge and start saying, so how do I? You have to read the manual. How does this fridge work? You know, you just don't buy it.
I love how Curtis is sitting there in the corner, so proud, like, that's my wife.
It's my hair. I should sit like this.
Oh my God, I love Soila. Like you're just, Curtis, you're so quiet.
I'm surprised because Kumbe, you listen to me. You know, when we're having this conversation,
Curtis.
sometimes she acts like I'm boring her or I'm talking too much. Kumbe,
No, amesikiza. It's
This is
okay.
very good.
Hata na sound kani head wa women's ministry mahali somewhere tuko na conference. Women's conference lazima ukwe kwa stage.
Nite.
No, but very well done, guys, and that's very encouraging to hear. And let's talk now, like, about marriage, right? So you guys were very young, pretty young. Okay, let me not say very young. Pretty young when you got married. Mid-20s, when you were getting married. There's a lot to adjust to, right? Now you're responsible over someone else, financially, socially, spiritually, emotionally, intimately, everything. You're now responsible over someone else. How was that transition now from dating into marriage?
Hey, it was a huge change. Because for me, I grew up in a setting where I was the only child. So that comes with its own...
You're used to your space.
Yes, you're used to your space. You're used to your own little things there.
Yeah.
And then now you get married and you don't just do things with yourself in mind. Now you have to be considering somebody else.
Yeah.
And that was quite an adjustment. And you know, you can want to change in your mind, but the experience is a totally different thing. So we had a few challenges here and there, but I think I was open to always being corrected that, hey, you are missing a point here and there.
Okay.
So for me, that's what helped. The willingness to learn and change.
Yeah.
But the challenges were real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you? Were you ready to be a wife? Like, I mean, you now have to take care of a home with someone else. It's not just your own space.
Oh,
like, there's
God.
expectations for, like, dinner and cooking and cleaning this place and being put together. Like,
Didn't
there's
we
a
fight
lot.
about all that? I was excited when I got engaged. I'm like, oh my goodness, I want to be a wife. And then I got married and I'm like, goodness, what did I just get myself into? I'm like, God, the society is not looking at me.
Yeah.
If he doesn't know that, then
Yeah.
like, so you're not feeding your husband.
Yeah.
I was like, oh God, I was actually terrified, I must say that many times I questioned my capability as a wife, but I still go back and I'm like, oh God, Sela, you've never done this before. I mean, he came in fresh, he's never been married before, I've never been married before. We are starting this afresh, we are starting our own culture.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't be so hard on myself or be hard on him to perform certain things that we've seen in movies or in our friends' marriages. If anything, I extended more grace. But initially, it was one of the toughest adjustment. As that commitment to adjusting was a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, how to we just talked about socks, man. Socks. Where to put socks. How who folds clothes, who irons clothes.
Yeah.
Those things. I mean, him being there's a way he grew up, and I grew up with 4 siblings.
Okay.
So as
you
we,
used
yes,
to,
as the way we used to do things, I do it today, tomorrow you do it. I remember the second week or third week of marriage, I had cooked the entire week. I mean, I'm just married from honeymoon.
Yeah.
I have to show myself as a good
Yeah.
wife. Cooked, and then the following, I'm like, I just sat down this particular day, he comes from work. It's 8, and like, what are we having for dinner? I'm like, I cooked yesterday. What do you mean, what are we having for dinner? You go to the kitchen.
Oh, you're expecting him. It's like your turn
Like, I've
now.
been doing it for the longest time now. I did it because we were during our honeymoon. I'm the one who's showing myself as a good wife, and now I'm tired. I'm like, it's 3 weeks. I'm done. I can't cook every day. We have to find a working way. So,
Interesting.
yeah,
Well, let me read some of the feedback that we have coming in. Full circle with Joyce. The couple are looking good together, enjoying the show. BT from Mombasa, Kongwe, you say the couple are so wow. They are so inspiring, actually. Good morning, Joyce. You guys look so nice. Thanks so much for bringing my favorite couple on the show. God bless you guys. Someone here says, love the couple. Are they born again?
Yes, we are.
Yes, they are. You can't even shout out your church now.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Our church is called Infinite Fellowship Ministries.
Yeah.
Yes, it's located at Kivi Milimani.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Someone here says, good morning, Joyce. I'm loving the show. And I want to ask the couple, when it comes to dating and purity, because I have friends who are in the dating world and they found themselves compromising on it. How did they overcome that? Thank you. All right. Is that maybe hopefully you guys can sort of give some guidance on that question. Yeah. Dating and purity.
Yeah. Again, the why question. If you're dating and you're anticipating marriage, celibacy is one of the best things you can do for the union, because the kind of connection that sex brings into a relationship is really weighty. And sex is one of those things that touch on your emotions, they touch on your psychology, they touch on your spiritual life. So when you bring sex too early into the relationship and you've not taken time to build the foundation spiritually, emotionally, and psychologically, the weight of sex will sort of not have, it will be too much for the foundation to handle.
Yeah.
Because you didn't take time to build the foundation before introducing the sex.
Yeah.
So you'll find yourself fighting about things that you really shouldn't be fighting about. Challenges that you really shouldn't be having.
Yeah.
So the celibacy process is something you're not denying, you're not wasting it.
Yes.
Yes, you are building a foundation before you get there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Here on Facebook again, I have Carol Alma who says, Joyce, you look great, and those two are goals. Thank you so much for that. Mercy Ogola, you say, Joyce, say hi to the couple. I really admire them. I also wish I'd find my soulmate, you say, and you're tuned in from Utawala. Vienna Pal, and this is a question then, you know, back to the question about finances. You guys got married very young. There's a question then of, you know, can we afford a huge, massive wedding?
Yeah.
Vienna Pal says, I really love this couple. My question is, I'm 24, my boyfriend is 27. We're planning to get married, but is getting married through court right due to finances as long as families are involved? Because for us, the wedding might be expensive. Please advise. And I don't know if that sort of came up with your families, if they were worried, you know, can you guys actually handle this? You've just finished college. What are you thinking? You know, and now to not only have a wedding, but then take care of yourselves after that. Any sort of counsel you could share with Vienna Pal here?
We normally say do not break the bank for your wedding.
Yeah.
A court wedding is fine. It's okay to go to the court and still get, God will bless it because he knows your heart in as far as the marriage is concerned. You don't even have to go to the court. I mean, if your pastor is willing, why not the two of you meet, even in his living room and have the wedding? You don't have to have tents, so we have all these paraphernalias. I mean, it's all about you and your spouse or your partner. Don't go the extra mile to please the society by the marriage or what you're going to invest in. You'd rather, I remember even having this conversation, I don't know if I told my sisters or my parents, like, I don't want you guys, even when it comes to dowry, I'm like, don't ask for too much so that, you know, I'm the one who's going to get married to him. I don't want to go and have ugali and salt because it's paid all he had. To you guys, let's be reasonable. I think I was having this conversation with my mom. Just you guys be very lenient when it comes to this thing. I mean, I was telling this guy.
That's good.
Because that's where I'm going.
Yeah,
you know?
at the end of the day, you leave and leave.
Yes. So if a wedding is going to take away from you, you'd rather put the money in your bank, go have a small, you remember that 100 bob wedding?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Absolutely.
I'm like, that's good. It's the intentionality and the motive of the couple.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Curtis and Soila, what a pleasure it's been to have you on the show, Mr. and Mrs. Wamalwas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sana, for your time.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed chatting with you both.
Likewise.
And thank you guys for all of your feedback to them. And of course, right now we're getting ready for our final discussion of the day. We're going to be talking about relationship do's and don'ts. Benjamin Zulu is in studio and he'll be joining me shortly. Stay tuned.